We are in Ein Yaakov. We are in the tractate Brachot, and it's page 26. Oh, do you have it? Press down. It's a brand new chapter, and in this chapter, I'm going to give you the introduction before we get into it.
Okay. Should I have a book even though I can't read it without my glasses?
No, you can listen.
I'll just listen.
I'll try not to speak monotone, and
Okay.
I won't put you to sleep. Okay. In this, we're going to be talking about tefillah, prayers, and how they were enacted. Notice, we have to, every day, we have to daven. We are obligated, I shouldn't say we have to, we are obligated to daven 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. Okay? Men. Women are only obligated twice. Twice. And the question is, where do we get this concept of 3 prayer services? Because if you look to the Rambam, Maimonides says in Hilchot Tefillah, in the laws of prayer, originally from the Torah, you only had to pray whenever you felt like praying. Something's going on in your life, so you pray. If you want a Thanksgiving, you pray. If you just feel like praying, pray. That's why you hear people say, I pray every day to God. I don't do it in a formalized manner, but I pray every day. And the truth is, according to the Torah, you've done your job. No problem. You've done your job. If I just say, USY, United Synagogue Youth, was famous for this benching, for this grace after meals. Rub-a-dub, thanks for the grub, yay God. Okay? That fulfilled the biblical injunction of V'yachalta v'zavata uberachta. You will eat, you will be satisfied, and you will bless God. You blessed God. You said, Rabba-dub thal, thanks for the grub, thanks for the food, thanks, yay God. That's all you have to do. Okay, from the Torah's point of view, I thanked God. From the rabbinic point of view, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. Okay, so in general, you'll never hear an Orthodox person. You'll never hear NCSY saying rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for God, yay God. Right. But it was a way to really teach USY, not to belittle them, but to actually praise them. It was a way to show the kids that, hey, it's not hard to be a Jew. It's really hard. Right. It's really easy to fulfill an obligation. It's not the best way to fulfill it, granted, but it's certainly a way. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now, like I say, couple the Rambam, Maimonides together with that, who says we only need to pray from the Torah's point of view when we feel like it. So if I don't feel like it, I don't have to pray. Okay. So according to that, I can have a very shallow, if I follow that, I can have a very shallow relationship with God, that only when I need something, or if I'm in time of, or I just feel good about it, I'm going to speak with God, or I can maintain or develop a relationship in which I'm constantly talking to God. And then the question is, what does it mean to talk to God? Are we talking to God as a father, as a friend, as a king? What's our relationship? How should we develop that relationship? And that's where we get into this Gemara that we're about to look at. Because really, we all know that we daven Shachris, Mincha, Marav, the morning, noon, and night. And then on Shabbos or Yom Tov, Musaf, we're going to come into Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we'll do Ne'ilah, we'll do Kol Nidre, we'll have a whole bunch of services, we're praying the whole day, like Malachim, like the angels themselves. Okay, where did it come from? So here we go. It's a very interesting Gemara. I think many people know it. It's been talked about many times. It says, Itmar Rav Yossi b'Rabi Chanina. That Rav Yossi said the name of Rabbi Chanina. Amar, he said, Tefilot Avot Taknu. Who established our prayers for the morning, noon, and night, that obligation? Our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those 3 gentlemen are who we are modeling ourselves after, so that's why we're praying 3 times a day. Okay. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he disagreed. It seems he disagreed anyway. Amar, and he said, Tefilot keneged tamidam tiknum. No, the prayers were fixed for the morning, afternoon, and night for the tamid offering, that the sacrifices that we brought. We had to bring a tamid, the continual, what's called the continual offering. It means the daily offering. You had to bring that morning and afternoon. It really doesn't deal with night. What is night is the fats that are burning. In other words, if I didn't finish the fats, if not everything was burned during the day, so then it should burn into the night. But if there's not fat, then there's nothing to burn. Okay, which is why the Talmud would say, not that we rule like this in practical terms, but the Talmud says that really the nightly service, the Ma'ariv service, is our reshut. We don't have to pray it. If we don't feel like it, we don't need to do it. That was later adopted by all of Israel, that we made it a mandatory thing. So now we all have to pray 3 times a day. Okay? So now the question is, who's right? Is it our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And if so, where do we see that they established it? Or is it the Korbanos? Or is it a combination of the two? It could be a combination too. Okay? And then Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi would not be disagreeing. He would just be adding something to the discussion. So it says Tanya Kavated Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. So we have a Braita that is like Rabbi Yossi the son of Chanina, who said that it's going after the forefathers, and Tanya. So Tikain Tefillot that Avram is Tikain Tefillot Shachris. It says that Abraham was established the prayer of the morning. Shene'amar, how do we know this? Because the Torah says, Vayashkem Avraham baboker el hamakom asher amad sham. That Avraham woke up early in the morning to the place that he stood there. And the Talmud continues, Ve'ein amida, and the only time, or in this sense anyway, the term Amidah, standing, is Ela Tefillah. It only refers to prayer. And how do we know that? Shenamar, from another verse in Tehillim, in Psalms, Vayamod Pinchas Vayipalel, that Pinchas stood up and he prayed. And then what happened was V'tiyatzar HaMagifa, the plague stopped. Okay, so we see that this word Amod, stand up, doesn't just literally mean stand up, but is referring to tefillah. So we learn from Abraham, who woke up early in the morning, that he got up and to pray, so therefore he's establishing Shacharis. Okay. Let's go on. Before I go through the commentaries, Yitzchak tikain tefillat hamincha, and Isaac established the prayer of mincha. Shene'amar, how do we know that? It says in Genesis, Vayetza Yitzchak lesuach basadeh lefnot erev. That Isaac went out to the field to meditate, as a word, lesuach. That's the word we're looking at. Toward the evening. The ein sicha, actually sicha is conversation. No, not meditate. The ein sicha ela tefillah, and the only time sicha in this context can only mean tefillah. How do we know? Because it says again in Tehillim, tefillah la'ani kiyat tov lefnei Hashem yishpoch sicho, that the prayer of the poor person when he enwraps himself before Hashem, he pours out his conversation, and that means namely prayer. Okay, the poor person is davening. So we see that Abraham established Shacharis, Yitzchak established Mincha, and that is the afternoon service. And then finally, Yaakov tikain tefillat Aravit. Yaakov established the prayer of Mariv, of the evening service, Shene'amar, Vayivga b'makom vayelen sham. That he met the place and he stayed there. Kiva Hashemesh, because the sun had set. The ein pegia, and the Gemara continues to say the word pegia, meat, is only referring to tefillah. How do we know? Shneimar says in Yirmiyahu, and the book of Jeremiah, V'yata al titpalel ba'ad ha'am hazeh, that you should not pray during this day, v'al tasha v'adam rina tefillah v'al tifka bi, and you should not lift up amongst the congregation in their midst joy and tefillah, and don't meet with me. In other words, don't pray to me. It's not the time. Okay. So from there we see, well, I'm not getting to all the different episodes. We're just establishing three. By the way, you have three words for prayer. One is amad. Okay, that's referring to prayer. The other one is siach, and the third one is pigia. All is really 10 terms of prayer. Each one, I talked about it one Shabbos. Each one meaning a totally different approach to God. One is very friendly. One is pega, is I'm coming to you in like a battle. Okay, and there's, like I said, there's many different terms. 10 different terms altogether, which I don't remember offhand to rattle to you, but it also teaches us that it's not just a simple, let me get to know you, God. Sometimes we're coming to God, and we all know that sometimes we are upset, and we come to God with tears. Sometimes we come with anger to God. How dare you do this? All the people who had to go through the Holocaust, I don't think their prayers were, you're so wonderful, God. It's like, and you see this from Elie Wiesel, where he attacks God in his books. Sorry?
That's what my father did.
Right. He had many people.
He said, God is dead.
Right. So he had many people who through different emotions approach God. And the person who approaches God through non-emotion will not be religious for long, because this is rote. So that means nothing. They will ultimately flitter away. But when we're engaged with God, a real engagement, then there's an emotion there. And that emotion, like I said, could be a tremendous happiness. You just had a baby, and and the baby's healthy, everybody's healthy, you're in joy. Besides the money you're going to spend for the kiddish or whatever else you can do, you still have joy till you see the bill, and then you have sadness.
Before my father passed away, I wrote down what he wrote, and I tried to translate it into English. And it sounds like the morning prayer to me. He wrote it in German, yeah.
Could be.
I suffered, yeah. So he came back to God, or maybe it was the evening prayer. But in my memoirs, I'll have to show it to you something.
Whoever is that angry at God, God is dead, or any one of those statements, it means I'm still engaged with you. I'm always engaged with God. Yeah. So I could be angry, I could be happy, I could be just in a good mood and wanting to talk to God. Like I said, if the person is not engaged, just says the words, mumbles words, but doesn't have any feeling behind them, that person will become unengaged very quickly, and will, like I said, go off what we call going off the derech. If they're ever on the way, then they'll just leave, because there's nothing there for them. It's like watching anything. I mean, if I'm not interested, I'm not going to be part of it. But if I am interested, again, it could be for whatever reason. I could need someone to rely upon. Everybody will tell me that there are those who want to insult religion. They'll say, religion is a crutch. And I say, you're right. Shocks the heck out of them. I'm not ready for that. I always tell them, you're 100% right. Religion is a crutch. God is a crutch. And you know what else is a crutch? My glasses. But I need them to see clearly. So I need God to help me through. So just as my glasses are a good crutch, or sadly, if a person has a broken leg, they need a crutch because otherwise they can't walk around, or any of the other crutches that we all have, they're good crutches. So God is a good crutch. I can rely upon God, unlike you, which I can't rely upon you. And that's so, it's true. I can have that sort of gratitude. I can have that sort of approach. It's not a problem. I have an appreciation for what God is. Again, the person who doesn't have that, doesn't know God, never really thought about Him, totally disengaged. If you throw that person, male or female, into a prayer service, Not only are they lost and bored, you can pretty much guarantee they don't come back. Which is why, if you look at Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services, in the old days, probably even today, where you have these kids who come to the show because why? If I don't come, my parents are going to kill me. That's all it is. They're not there because they want to be there. There's no engagement. They're totally bored. That's the guys who keep going like this, or falling asleep, have the book upside down, like I talked about on Rosh Hashanah itself. But that's the lack of engagement. They don't, and it was strange. The strangest thing to me is they don't look at English.
Oh.
The English is right there. Out of everything else, if I would be bored silly, I would at least say, okay, let's see what's going on here. Read a couple. I don't have to keep up with everybody. I don't know what they're doing anyway. So read the book. When non-Jews come in, I always tell them that when they want to see a service, I say, look, you're not going to understand a word that we are saying. It's all Hebrew here. So what I want is I give you a choice. Here's the introduction. Read it. See what we're all doing here. And then if you want, you can read the other stuff. It's Psalms, this, that. You may have some connection with it. I don't know. Whatever talks to you. But that's what we are. So I say the same thing to Jews. Why do you sit there doing absolutely nothing except for looking at the clock? And when you look at the clock like that, it moves so slowly. It is forever. It's backwards. It's horrible. But that's what it is. Because looking, it's only a minute. Oh my God! Another 2 hours left. Oh, I'll never make this. And you're torturing yourself instead of just using your time productively. We had a guy in my shul in Bangor. He did not pray. God did not pray. I don't think he did that. Maybe he prayed in his own way. I'll give him that. But when he came to shul, he would take a chumash or whatever book he could find and read it. He went through the Bible probably 5-6 times. He went through he went through the prayer book, I think even. He went through history books. That was his reading hour. That was his approach to God, as it were. Because he said, I don't believe in this stuff. So I said to him, but I always made him put his tefillin on. So I put his tefillin on and his talis. So I said, okay, you do that, and now you can read all you want to read, and so on and so forth. The guy was very sweet about it, and he came religiously. Those guys come religiously. They have a day, they come, no problem. Okay, and some of those might get best customers, but it's at least he uses time productively, unlike the other guys who just stood there like this. I'm thinking, what do you do? Okay, but that's all part of the approach that you can have to God. As long as I'm engaged somewhat, any bit, then I can grow. Otherwise, I'm not. So that's what we have here. You have, like I said, the three people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are engaged in different manners with God. Okay, like I said, you have one that's standing before God, and by the way, in that episode that they're using, that is right after God spoke to him about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm going to burn them down. He wakes up early in the morning after he had the whole discussion, the bargainings with God. 50, 40. Remember that? If there's 50 religious people, 50 good people, righteous people. 45, 40, 30, 20, 10. If there's that 10 righteous people, you'll save the city. And God says yes. He wakes up early in the morning. And that's why it says, so the place that he stood there. What was he doing when he stood there? He was praying to God. Okay, so it's not even a stretch. He was praying to God and bargaining with God, which again is another way that people talk to God. If you, God, will do this for me, then I'll do this for you. Okay? And why not? If it works, it works. God's always up for a good bargain, you know? By the way, what we do when we have that sort of conversation with God, even though we're humanizing God, we're also we're dealing with God how we can understand God. Okay, it's really a reflection of us, no question, but it's our way of trying to deal with the unknowable. We'll never know God; it's an impossibility. but we can approach God in such a manner that we can say, look, if you, I'll do this, you do this, and so on and so forth. If that works for you for that moment, fine. Again, that's an engagement with God. As compared to Yitzchak, where it's, again, the siyach is a conversation. I'm conversing with God. So that's another way. I'm not coming, I don't want anything. I'm just calling it like when I would call my mom up, my father, and just have all of my mother would talk, my father would not really talk that much on the telephone. He hated the telephone. But my mother could go on and on. When we would go on, we would talk about, what was happening in yeshiva. It was an informational call. And this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's another kind. When we talk to God, you would say, God doesn't need to know. God knows everything, right? Again, it's my relationship. How do I view God? Do I view God as this faraway king who doesn't care about me? Or as a person, or as a God who cares about me, as a personal relationship? If he has a personal relationship, I have to call. I have to have a conversation. I have to treat God the way I would want a friend or a family member to be treated. I remember I once sprained my ankle. It was the craziest thing. I sprained my ankle in the yeshiva, and I was just coming to my dorm room. We had a payphone, the days of payphones, and my mother called up that second. I just sprained it. My mother called up. She said, "Are you all right?" My mother was in Boston. I was in New York. I was like, What? She said, "Are you all right? Is everything good?" I said, "How did you know to call me just now?" I just wanted to call you. Everything good? No, I just sprained my ankle, actually. But thanks for calling.
You said ESP or?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was like unbelievable. I give my mother credit for that. I don't know how she knew when something was wrong. She would give a call. I mean, also when something was good, but she had that sort of sixth sense. And like I said, she was in Boston, and I'm in New York. It's a good distance away, and nobody's giving her a call. I was past college already. So but that was, again, can you imagine Hashem saying, "So you're all right? You didn't trip that bad, did you? You can get up, right?" Or as your grandson says to his kids, and I'm also having the attitude, "Walk it off. It's good. It builds you up. It builds it up." I think you also said that, right?
Yeah,
okay. But really, that's what it is. When we have that sort of relationship with God, that it's a siyach, it's a conversation. As compared to Yaakov, which is tifga, he's meeting God. It's sort of confrontational. He does bargain with God in this case. He does bargain with God. He says, God, if you bring me back to my family, I will give you 10%, and you'll be my God, and I'll teach my kids about you. You have to understand that conversation in context, but nonetheless, there's a bargaining chip going on here. So I'm meeting you. I'm coming against you. So what do you want to do with me? After all, what's he doing? He's about to leave his father. He's leaving. He's left his father and mother, and now he's going to his thieving uncle. So he has to, and he knows it. Lavan he knew that Lavan wasn't no good for nothing. Okay, so he has to deal with that secular world and get into that. And here's a guy who the Torah describes as an ish tam. He is a simple man, complete man. He doesn't know how to do all these tricks. He has to learn very quickly. So that's vayifka. So again, there's different approaches. However I feel at that moment is how I'm approaching God. And they're all valid. They're all valid. That's what's coming out of here. But another thing that's coming out is also that we have those three established the tefillah. And then you have it says, Tiny Kavate, there's also Braita, like Rav Yeshua ben Levi. And it says, Mipnei ma amru tefillah shachar ad chatzot. He said, the Braita states, why is it that shacharis, the prayer of shacharis, of morning, can only be said until chatzot, midday? Okay, in other words, when it comes to the morning prayer, I can only pray from dawn at the earliest, sunrise is actually the best, all the way till chatzot, according to the Torah. Again, the rabbis pushed it a little before that to the 4th hour. But nevertheless, why can I do that? Why can't I go further? I wake up, I have a night, my brother had a night job. He used to work the night shift where he was working. So he would come home at 2 in the morning, or he'd get off 2 in the morning, come home 3 in the morning. He went to sleep 4 in the morning, still dark. You can't daven shacharis. So, and he would get up 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, whatever it's going to be. He could argue, which I'm sure he did, my brother, okay? He would argue, this is my morning. So therefore I'm going to say shacharis. I'm going to get up, film on, and daven the whole shacharis, the whole morning service. And the rabbi said, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't go by you, it goes by the majority of the world. And the majority of the world, that would be one part, the majority of the world wakes up at a certain time. And that's when they daven. But still, so what? So what? We would argue, right? What do I care what the majority of the world does? I'm not the majority. The majority of my world, who davens in this crazy, who has this crazy night shift, has to do this. So that's why the Gemara says, why is it? Why do we have ad chatzot until chatzot? Sharei tamid shel shachar karav v'holech ad chatzot. Because the tamid offering, the daily continual offering, could only be brought until chatzot. And since we said that the prayers were fixed in alignment with the sacrifices, therefore, just as the morning korban, the morning offering, could only be brought until chatzot, so also we can only pray until chatzot. Understand? And then Rabbi Yehuda says until the 4th hour. And that's how we rule, actually. We would rule to the 4th hour. But really, the Talmud offering could be brought till chatzot. And then the mincha is from chatzot until shkiyat hachama, which is sunset. And then the burning of the fats is all night through. Okay? So from 3 stars until all the way through. That's when we would identify those 3 times. So really, the answer to the person who has a night shift is, if I held like Abraham, that we got from our forefathers, you'd actually have a leg, potentially you would have a leg to stand on. You could say, look, just as they got up, by Estem Avram Baboker, he got up early in the morning, because he had a good night's sleep. Simple. On the other hand, so after I have a good night's sleep, or a good day's sleep, whatever you want to call that, so I also can do that. And so the rabbis say, no, because of the other opinion. The other opinion says we go after the korbanot, when the korbanot were brought, if that's the case, so you have until this set time.
So the rabbi suggested that he interrupt his sleep, get up 7 o'clock in the morning?
No, that was, if anything, you would suggest that you stay up 2 more hours.
Right.
Now, if you're getting up at 3, if you're leaving, let's say you're leaving shift at 2. Takes you an hour, where we were. Takes about, well, actually, no traffic.
Okay.
Take a half hour to get home. So you're home at 2:30, 3 o'clock. Okay, that's assuming that you could run right out of the job, which hardly ever happens, by the way. Because what happens when you're in the job? You go down to the locker room, you're changing, you're schmoozing, you're having a cup of coffee. You're wired. You're wired. We're all wired after work. Okay, so now it takes me a little while to calm down. So when the drive home is not very relaxing, although it's night, there's really no traffic, and maybe one of the more relaxing drives of Boston anyway. And so then you get home. Still, you're not ready to go to sleep. Remember, this is your whole shift. This is a normal shift. So you got used to that shift. And now you're getting home. You want to have a little whatever to eat. By the time you're finished eating, it probably is 4:30, 5 o'clock. At that point, daven. That's what they would tell you. At that point, you could daven already. Or a little later.
Winter would be a little bit later.
So, by the way, I want you to know, when it comes to this, the only thing I can't do is put on my talis with a bracha. That's like they do here. My father had the other problem. My father's problem was he has to be at work at 7 in the morning. So he had to leave at 6:15, something like that. Yeah. And when he started to pray, so it was very early in the morning. He was getting up 4:30. And I said, let me find out what you can do here. So I looked up the halacha, and I saw, okay, so you can put your tefillin on with a bracha, okay? Say all the prayers, and what you should do is when you're on the road, repeat Shema. Repeat the Shema, that's all. Get the Shema in the proper time.
At 4:30 in the morning, the sun isn't up.
No,
Yet,
but
right?
the dawn is. The dawn is broken, and you're right near dawn. So when it comes to tefillin, really I could wear tefillin all day, including the night. Mm-hmm. The only problem with wearing it at night is I may fall asleep, and I may pass gas. I'm not allowed to pass gas when I'm wearing tefillin. Okay? That's why if you have a bad stomach, by the way, you don't wear tefillin. Mm-hmm. You know, if a person has a bad stomach that day, and they're diarrhea or whatever they're having, or they're very gaseous, you're not allowed to put tefillin on until you know that you're not going to have it in gastronomical distress. Okay, so that's why kids don't put tefillin on. That's why we don't train our kids early. We train them only like 3 months before a month before the bar mitzvah. And then we have to train them properly about when they don't feel good, you can't wear. Not that they really need to be told that you can't wear tefillin, because I think some kids are like, thank God, I have gastronomical distress, I can sleep a little longer. I remember, I told him that's what you have to do. I said, like I said, talis, couldn't do anything about. Yeah, I said just make a bracha, but you can put it on. Not a problem, put it on. And then you can say all the prayers. You can say Shemona Esrei. There's halachas for this. In a what we call a b'diavad situation where you have no way to get around it, he's going to work. He knew he was not going to pray at work with tefillin. Okay, that wasn't going to happen. So if that's the case, you have to do what you have to do. But that's how you work it. You go for all the leniencies possible, so you try to get everything in. And then hopefully you don't have to keep working a late shift, and whatever the case is going to be. And sooner or later, time catches up with you anyway. Because in the summertime, he never had that problem. It was only in the wintertime that it was ever a problem. Because otherwise, 4:30, and certainly in Boston, is he would get up 4:30. So 5 o'clock when he's starting, it's really not a problem to daven. There's not that much of a problem. Here is horrible because of the time zone. Here it's horrible, and even here we're davening with what's it called? Sunrise at 8:15. That's the latest it gets. We're still davening at 6:45 with tefillin, saying everything, because we're relying upon a 90-minute leniency from Rav Moshe. 90 minutes, which I never even knew about 90 minutes, but they have such a sheet. But 90 minutes. This will be before sunset. Halachic minutes.
Tefillin on with the bracha.
Tefillin on with, Well, tefillin wasn't a problem. It's more the tefillah that was the problem. Tefillin, I told you can daven. If I wake up 3 a.m, I could really put it on. But it's not that I should. I'm not saying one should at l'chadchila, but you can get away with it. Okay, so that's what they would do. A practical thing would be you try to work it out with the person so that we know. Okay, so now the questions abound on this. Okay, that was the basic foundation of what's happening. So the Maharsha says an interesting question, as it were. He says, "L'kamen kedemasik." Nami Esmichia Al-Karbanis sees that here we're also going on Karbanis. And so if that's the case, what do you do with the Tefillat Musaf? Who established the Musaf service? If you want to say it's the forefathers, that's morning, noon, and night. So what happened to the Musaf? So that can only go back to the Karbanos. We never had anything else but the Korbanos from Musaf. Okay? That's one thing. So then also you have to ask another question. It says, Dim lo heavy to come tefillah klal, gam Musaf neged Korbanos, lo tiknu hem seder yudchet brachot. Also, they did not set the Shemona Esrei that we have. Well, how do we know this? Because the Happy Yavne is kind of al seder. We go by our Shemona Esrei is not even based upon. It is the text that the men of the Great Assembly fixed. The men of the Great Assembly were long after Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Right? So they didn't daven that. So what exactly did their forefathers fix? So from the fathers, from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we learned that we have to pray 3 times a day, to establish, to fulfill that which was written, when it says Erev Uvokav Saraim Asichel Hashem. In the nighttime, in the morning, and the afternoon, I will talk to Hashem. Okay, that's one thing. That's what they were just establishing for us, this system that we have to pray 3 times a day. Venera Od, and you have to ask a question, and this question should have been bothering you from the beginning. Abraham, I said, established Shacharis. Yitzchak, Mincha. Yaakov, Marev. Does that mean that Avram only davened once? That Yitzchak davened twice because he followed his father. He's a good boy. And Yaakov, he said, you know what? I'm going to add one more. Is that what happened? So Abraham didn't do it? How could that be? We have a rule, we have a statement that Avram Nami hit Balal Mincha, and it says he had to have davened that. Why? Because we say in the Gemara Yuma that afilu erev of tafshilin kayim, that even a rabbinic injunction of what we're going to do next week, an erev tafshilin, where you take an egg or a piece of fish and a roll, and I make a bracha on that on Wednesday before the holiday, right? So that I can cook Friday afternoon for Shabbos. Because normally, the halacha is that if I have a chag, like we have, okay, we're going to have chagim. We just had with Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah, I could cook on Thursday for Thursday, but I couldn't cook on Thursday for Friday. That's forbidden. That's why we had to wait so long to eat Thursday night. Right? You had to wait. When's the earliest I can start cooking, Rabbi? 8:30? Okay. So 8:30 is the first time I can finally put my soup back on the stove, all my stuff on the black or wherever else I'm putting it, and warming the food up. So now I'm going to eat 9 o'clock, unless I'm having a cold supper, and then I can eat in 2 seconds. So get food up for sandwich, let's get it going. But whatever the case is. But on Friday afternoon, if I would wait till nighttime to cook, I'm stuck. I can't cook. Shabbos, no cooking. So I have to cook on Friday afternoon or Friday morning for Friday night. Right. Friday morning for Friday night. So how do you do that? Because what I did was I started on Wednesday with my Erev Tavshil. I made set that aside for my afternoon meal on Shabbat. But I've already started my preparations. And I say, because I started, the halacha is because you started your preparations, that allows you on Friday to complete your preparations. Okay? So that's purely rabbinic. Purely rabbinic. There's nothing from the Torah that would mention that. And the rabbis enacted that, and we say that Avram Avinu, our father, fulfilled that mitzvah. He knew that mitzvah was going to come up. Not that he was commanded to it. He wasn't commanded. None of us were commanded to it at that point. There was no Torah. But he wanted to fulfill the Torah in every detail that he could. He learned, however, he learned the Torah, all tradition. And so he wanted to do that. So if he's going to do that, if he knows about Erev Tavshilin, you're trying to tell me he doesn't know about Mincha and Maariv? Of course he knew about that. So he had to have done that also. That only makes sense according to this Midrash. So it says, Ella, so what we're learning, that what we're really learning from the fathers is, again, that we have to daven, and it says, Ulai kol echad mehem hayote zariz kefi midato, and it could be that the reason they were all given the honor of fixing a particular prayer was because of they were very specific in that particular midah. What does that mean? In the morning, when we daven Shachris, the midah of Hashem is Rachamim. Who was the Baal Rachamim? Who was the king of Gemilas Chasadim, of loving kindness? Abraham. So he's fixed with morning. What's the afternoon represent? The afternoon is judgment. That's din. We're in judgment here. Judgment time. Who was the epitome of judgment? Isaac. And Mariv, nighttime. What's nighttime? Diaspora. The one who's going out. One who doesn't know what's going on next. Who is that? Yaakov. That was his midah. He was going out. He didn't know what was going to happen to him. It was very shaky. He never had a moment's peace in his life. Maybe, well, I shouldn't say in his life. For the first 60 odd years, he was pretty good. But after that, once he had to run from his brother, from that point on, it was never a fun time again for him. He wanted peace, and Hashem said to him, it's a famous line, says, Vayeshev Yaakov Beersheva, that Yaakov is living in Beersheva. Yosef was 17 years old, and we get into the whole thing, so the whole story of Yosef. So Rashi quotes the Midrash. He says, what's the connection between Yosef? He had other sons besides Yosef. What are you picking on Yosef for? And it says that Yaakov said, all I want is to live in peace. I'm not interested anymore. I'm home with my father, and the kids are here. Baruch Hashem. And Hashem said, no, this world is not a world of peace. You'll have peace when you die. That's when you're going to have peace. This world is to work in. We have to protect ourselves. And when you read that, it sounds like a crazy thing. But I even gave a lecture on that. If you may remember it, if you only have one day to live. Yeah. The point of this world, no matter how much we don't like that point, is we have to work out here. We have to emulate God here, where we have all the doubts that we have. And whoever says they have no doubts is either insane or a liar. I'm sorry. Okay? It's so hard to look at everything and say, oh, no, clearly it's God. No. I don't know anybody who can do that and not have 1 second of, really? What's going on here? It must be, I did this. You didn't do anything. Obama was right. You didn't build that road. Okay? It's God who built it, not what he wants to say, but I'm taking it further. It's God who gave us the ability to do these things. It's only God who directs us in these ways. Okay? And it's also God who lets us trip. Just like when we teach our kids how to ride a bike. If I would always hold the bike and never let the bike go, my kid would never learn how to properly balance. When I let the bike go, the child will learn he's going to fall. He or she will fall. Okay? It happens. You get up and you ride again. That's how it is. You're going to fall in the ice. You get up again. You skate. You'll turn into whatever the skaters' names are. I forget the skaters' names. Peggy Fleming, that's all I remember at this point. From 1970. Okay. Scott Hamill. Oh, there you go. That was, I think, the
Dave Lerman.
Dave Lerman. There you go. Okay. But no, he didn't play in the Olympics, so I was thinking of the Olympic skaters. But you are those people. Okay. You have to get up. That's the point. A parent sometimes has to let go. Mm-hmm. And when the kid makes a mistake, the kid grows. The father's always there. The parents are always there to pick you up, though. To give you a hand, to support you. So that's what's going on here too. So each one had their own midah. Each one had their own character trait. And that's why they were honored with this. Not to say that Abraham or Isaac or Jacob didn't all daven these. They all did. But each prayer has a specific midah of Hashem that we're looking at. Like I said, one is din, one is racham, and one is din. And like I said, the last one is actually not ongoing on God, although some people could probably pull it to something of the sfirot. But really, some of the rabbis say it's more the aspera of the unsure. It's just there, and you have to go into that. And that was really emulated by Yaakov, who had to do that. Okay, that was one of the things that I want to talk about, and we'll actually stop there. Okay.